welcome to Module 2, which is Chapter 2, Charting a Company's Direction. Just a reminder this week that your first assignment, Strategic Alignment Assignment, Paper 1, is due on Sunday, September 13th by 9 p.m. You'll want to first submit it via the Blackboard assignment as an MS Word file, and then also post your paper to share in the SA1 discussion board form so other students can take a peek at what you decided to do for your first paper. So let's talk about Chapter 2. Chapter 2 presents an overview of the managerial task associated with developing and executing an organization's strategies. Special attention is given right up front to the importance of a clear vision for the company, that is its future direction, and the strategic and financial objectives that will guide the way. It also talks about the importance of mission statements, which is the present purpose of the organization, and values, which is how the behaviors and traits of the folks in the organization should behave. The importance of setting objectives at all levels of the organization is explored, with the role of operating excellence in the successful execution of strategy. Then the chapter wraps up with what I would call an introduction to corporate governance. And this is the responsibility of the organization's board of directors in overseeing the strategic management process. And corporate governance is an entire field of study. And in our strategic management course, you get introduced to the concept. So if you look at your textbook, what's really important to see the big picture is check on Figure 2.1. The strategy executing process shows the 5 tasks of executing strategy. But it starts back with task 1, which is developing a strategic vision, which is the future direction of the organization. These are really short, inspiring, kind of bold statements of where the organization is going. The mission statement, which this can be a little bit longer. Sometimes I've seen mission statements a few sentences to a couple paragraphs, but a mission statement clearly talks about the present purpose of the organization. And then you will see a set of core values or guiding principles, which is how you should behave in the organization. So the first part of the book talks about developing a strategic vision, which is the long-term direction of the organization. The vision should describe where we're going, and then the mission and the strategy talks about how are we going to get there. So communicating this vision is very important. And if you take a look at illustration capsule 2.1, I think it's on page 23 in your textbook, it gives some vision statements, and it gives the pros and the cons for organization Coca-Cola, Procter & Gamble, and it talks about where it's going. So the vision statement matters. It's what allows senior managers to give their view, and hopefully it's a shared view about the firm's long-term direction. It can be a great tool for winning the support of organization members to see where we're going and help with the mission statement. And it really helps the organization to prepare for the future. The next thing in your textbook, it talks about the mission statement. And the mission statement is fairly clear-cut. It should describe the purpose of the present organization, who we are, what we do, and why we are here. And it will describe the company's products and services, and sometimes reach out and describe who the customer groups or markets it serves, and give the company its own identity. The third part is the corporate values. Sometimes these are clearly listed on a website, actually vision, mission, and values. And sometimes you have to get a feel of the sense of when the mission statement is in the present or the future. So sometimes it'll be clear, sometimes you have to infer. But the values are the beliefs, the traits, and the behaviors that you're expected to display in conducting the mission of the organization and helping it reach towards its vision. The second task is setting strategic objectives. And the book will talk about strategic and financial objectives. Those are the 2 standard objectives. Strategic objectives will relate to the target outcomes that indicate a company is going to strengthen its market position in what market, maybe how competitive it will be and why it will be competitive, and if it's reaching out to new customers. So that's the strategic objectives. The financial objectives relate to financial performance targets. It could be increased revenues, it could be controlling cost, it can be the ratios, which you'll get to in chapter 4, but the financial objectives are clearly showing positive performance for the organization. The third task in the strategic management process is how do you craft that strategy? And strategy formulation should really involve all managers at all levels in the organization, even though senior management has the responsibility to guide this, to make sure there's alignment within the organization with all the strategies. You'll notice in chapter 2 that it talks about corporate strategy, and that's typically where you have a multi-business organization with many different business units. And corporate strategy establishes an overall game plan for managing a set of businesses in a diverse portfolio. The business strategy, which we'll focus on for assignment number 2 and assignment number 4, the mini case study and the actual capstone case study, it's primarily concerned with strengthening the company's market position and building a competitive advantage in a single business company, or if it's a large organization, you'll be focusing on a single business unit of what could be a diverse multi-business. So the chapter gets into talking about the importance of strategy at the corporate, the business, and the functional level. So just remember, when you're designing strategy, it involves formulation, planning, implementing, and controlling. The fourth task in the strategic management process is actually executing the strategy. And that's managing the implementation of a strategy and how demanding it is and how you're dealing with people and internal and external to the organization. And the fifth task is evaluating performance and initiating corrective actions. And at the essence of strategy, it's a very dynamic process. When you do the strategic plan, that's typically at a point in time, but once you begin executing the plan, you have to be flexible enough to realize that the plan you may have had 3 weeks ago could be changing today based on uncontrollable things happening in the external environment, something with the industry or internal to the organization. And the final part of this chapter is corporate governance. And I want you to be aware that corporate governance can be an entire area of study. When I did my doctorate at Case Western Reserve, I had an entire course just on corporate governance. And corporate governance is about the role of the board of directors in the strategy making, strategy executing process. And you'll learn that a company's board of directors has 4 important obligations to fulfill. And they're overseeing the company's financial accounting and financial reporting practices. That's number 1. Number 2 is the board should be critically appraising the company's direction, which is vision, the strategy based on its mission, and its business approaches. And the board should also, third, be evaluating the caliber of senior executives and the strategic leadership skills. And finally, fourth, that the board institutes a compensation plan for top executives and mandates it for the CEO that rewards them for actions and results that serve the shareholders' interest. All right, let's talk about next steps in Module 2. So what I'd like you to do next is read Chapter 2 and use the supporting PowerPoints that have been provided. And like you did last week, you'll want to answer Discussion Board 3. Now in Discussion Board 3, there is a question about your thoughts on values, vision, mission, and it gives you the opportunity to share with the classmates what organization you picked, why. Type in the values, vision, mission, and of course they can read your paper later. That will be posted on Sunday, but by Wednesday you should have at least identified the organization and be making sure you can get to the values, vision, mission to do the assessment for assignment number 1. The second question involves corporate governance and looking at the Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae institutions and what your opinion is based on what you've read in the text and what is presented in the capsule. And then I ask you if you're interested in a board, do you currently serve on a board, and if so, what type of board would you like to serve on? So just make sure you check in 2 or 3 times a week into the weekly discussion boards and not post at the last minute. The next thing that is due in Module 2 is your first paper. Now, if you flip over to pages 6 and 7 in your syllabus, and I will read this along to you for the assignment. Just give me a second to get there. Each student will submit a paper on the identified values, vision, mission for an organization of interest. It can be your current organization. It could be a past organization you want to evaluate. It could be a competitive organization or an organization you wish to work for. And what you want to do is, based on your readings in Chapter 2, you want to assess the values, vision, and mission statement and let us know it's effective. The second part of this assignment on page 7 of your syllabus is to share with us who the founder of the organization is, current CEO, anything you can find about the current leadership and its board of directors, and to provide your opinion based on what you found about the governance structure. So make sure you have an introduction to the paper that overviews what organization, why you selected what this short paper is about. Then provide the values, vision, mission, cite where you found the information, and then do your assessment. And then provide a summary of what you've learned here. And remember that assignment 1 is due September 13th by 9 p.m. And you'll want to submit it through the Blackboard assignment button. And then also post your paper in the Essay 1 discussion board forum to share with your classmates. Why you can have, I think it's fun to see what other students are doing. You can review other papers. That's optional. But in the subject line, state your first and last name and the organization you reviewed. And in the message box, all I want you to do is cut and paste the value, vision, and mission statements. And if students are interested in these other organizations you looked at, or perhaps 2 of you looked at the same organizations, didn't realize until you saw what is posted. And then attach the paper. This is the paper that you submitted on Blackboard assignment for grading. Attach the paper there if other students would like to look at the organization assessed. So let me tell you a little bit about next week's scenes. Next week's scenes, Module 3, will move into evaluating a company's external environment. And this is the importance of understanding the macro environment. And there's at least a half a dozen tools presented in this chapter that you will be able to use for assignment number 2 and assignment number 4, your mini case study and your final case study, and showing what are the pastel factors that are affecting your organization, and that's political, economic, social, technological, environmental, and legal. An application of Porter's 5 forces model. There's the value net illustration, the strategic group maps, the competitive analysis, and how to come up with key success factors. And the third item is that the ETS MBA program requirement. On page 10 of your syllabus, you will see that the ETS is an MBA program requirement. You take the actual ETS test in the capstone course because typically at this point most of you are graduating. Maybe you have an elective or 2 left that you'll take next term. But this is a test that really evaluates a combination of all the core courses that you've had, and to see if you have the MBA knowledge. So I recommend you go to page 10 in your syllabus to learn more about ETS, and to go to the discussion board, and you'll want to provide your option 1 and your option 2 for the testing. Yes, this is an online course, but you are required to come to campus to take the ETS test. If you live out of state, Miss Diane Cairns will be contacting you. It is a proctored exam, and she will be providing the details of how the out-of-state students will handle this testing. But everybody that lives within the state, I'll get to meet you. You have 3 options of when to come to class. And then, as always, we'll be initiating our Discussion board 4, it'll be our third week of class, and hopefully you'll get the hang of participating in the class sessions. So as we get into the third week of class, make sure you're comfortable with the discussion board where we're moving on anything, and if you have any questions, please feel free to always email, call me, or even you can come to campus if you're within driving distance. Thank you very much.